Okay, so we have, I think we've gone really deep on outlining, and I want to make sure that we also serve the needs of people who don't necessarily outline, because not everybody does. So,
Elizabeth,
yes.
one quick question on this.
Mhm.
All right, so you've got your outline showing there for Save the Cat. Are
Yep.
you saying then that what you would do is like say highlight part one and put it in its own document under like where you've got your untitled listed, and then use that to write like or to expand on and start your first chapter or to make the beats for that one section and do that separately for each one of these?
You could do it
And
that way. I would do it this way. I'll just do it that way. I can show you guys. I have this outline, and I'm gonna rename this document Save the Cat outline. And then the prompt I'm gonna grab is from here, which is expand the following. So I'm just gonna grab this sample prompt that I have. I'll put it into the chat so you guys have it. And we will doctor this here. Before I copy and paste that, let me copy and paste this outline, because we're gonna need that outline, because that's the outline that we're gonna tell it to expand. So I'm gonna press enter here, and this is to get a beat outline, because I like beats personally, not the food actually, just in story writing. So now in between where this outline is and my beat outline, I need my prompt, which my prompt is right here that I put into the chat. So we're going to start twisting this. Okay, expand the following into a detailed beat outline. And it understands beats, the word beat, B-E-A-T, better than scenes. When I've told scenes, it gets very confused. Kind of like that whole chapters thing. Don't make me a chapter outline, because it doesn't understand that. Beat outline for a genre novel. Well, we are writing a science fiction mystery novel with paragraphs of information for each part. Before I do that, I'm going to give it some more commands in between here and there. So I'm going to start to say, expand the following into a detailed beat outline for a science fiction mystery novel, adding in story details and characters and clues and red herrings for the mystery, because earlier today you guys asked about red herrings, with paragraphs of information for each part. Does everybody see how I started to tweak that prompt? And I wanted you guys, there's no wrong or right way to tweak a prompt, by the way. You could go, well, Elizabeth did it this way, I want to try this. You are fully authorized to change the prompts and test them. And if you stay till the end of the video, please do stay for the end of the class, because I have something special that'll help you do that. So let me go ahead and delete the spacing here, because I found that it doesn't really like spacing too much. There, that's good. Okay, so let's see what this does. So I'm going to do a new one, and I'm going to use that first draft feature. I promise we will move on to other features, so we're not just doing first draft all day. So now it's going, and we'll see what it does. Look at how it's already giving me more specific information. Like, wow. Okay, the detective got changed. Now we've got Detective Samantha James. So it's really gone a little bit bigger. It's definitely doing not a save the cat thing. Oh, chapter 2, the chase begins. So this is where sometimes Sudowrite just goes, stupid human, I've got something better. Let me just do my thing. I don't necessarily know that this is better, but I'm definitely seeing a lot more details. What do you guys think?
Is it going to like kick itself out? Because yeah, you see it's gone from chapter 3 to the epilogue. So it's like there's a certain amount of words that it can spit out, it looks like.
I think it just got to the point that it figured out that that's where, so where it says chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, that's probably better of act 1, act 2, act 3. It just gets confused. Okay. And just to show you that literally the exact same prompt can get you something completely different, we'll do this as beat outline 1, and I'm gonna do another one, and I'm gonna copy and paste the exact same thing in, and we're not gonna get the same results. So I'm putting that in. It's the exact same that we had. I didn't make any changes, and I click go.
You said earlier that the AI is constantly learning, but this is based on GPT-3 that goes up to 2021. Is there an extra layer of weights that Sudo is doing on top of GPT?
I don't know everything that Sudo is doing. I'm not privy to that, but I have found in my experience, Sudowrite is getting better as I use it. And I don't necessarily think that's a function of the AI, of the AI feed that we're familiar with, but more of Sudowrite's capabilities. And that's their proprietary information.
Yeah, understood. Cool.
Might the amount of words cause a problem of what Sudowrite is generating? No, I have not found that to be a problem. So we're getting about part 4. I think it's just running out of what to say because we didn't tweak that. We missed a step. And this is because it's a 2-hour class. I would have gone through and I would have changed that outline. That outline that it gave was very generic and basic. And basically there's just not enough meat there for it to expand it out. Does that make sense, Michael? Like when I look at this, the Save the Cat outline, it's very like confront the culprit in a dramatic battle of wits ensues. That's really not enough information. Okay, so what if you just press right now? So that was the next thing I was going to show. Yes, there will be a recording. So we have 509 words. This is where you could grab these pieces and you could start feeding it into that first draft and getting a chapter. You also could do expand or write or things like that. But I want to show some features now of us actually working with the pros. So with everyone's permission, I'm going to move away from so yeah, just stay to the end, Sass, and I have some more information for that quote there, that question there. So I'm going to come back to where we actually had a pretty decent this chapter right here, where we had the dialogue and everything with HP. Yes, it could continue the outline. So if you come back to Unlimited 1 here, where you have part 4, the showdown, it won't necessarily continue the outline because if I just click right, it thinks that we're at the end. So it literally told me the book should end with a teaser for the sequel. Does that help you, Peter? It's like, stupid human, the book story is over. You got your final conclusion. So this is why I was saying like the problem with this outline that I can identify with, because I've used AI so much, is that we just didn't have enough meat for the summary. We didn't have enough material for that outline to get bigger, because I've given it lots more material when we were playing with the paragraphs, and it gave a much bigger outline and everything. And I will go back to that at the end if we have time. But I really want to show some other features because other people came here who are pantsers, and I really want to honor that. So let's go to that first chapter that was kind of rant. We didn't like it. So this is where we're going to start playing more with some of our more nuanced tools. We did the near future technology metronome. Those commands that I gave, remember? I said that he's going to touch down and he's going to I kind of gave the commands in first draft, but we could also give those commands in guided write. So let's see how that looks. Let's see here. Called into the case had been long and tiring, an arduous cross-country flight as the crime scene was too far away from a car. And yet came into view, he felt a spark of incitement. Okay, right here. He knew that this case was going to be unlike any other. I don't think we need to have that yet. I think we should still be with him arriving in the airport, right? So I'm just going to push the enter key. So I move that down. And I know that I want another beat here. So what I could do is I could just put my cursor here. If you're like really wanting to be broad, you could just click the right button. And I want to talk about a couple of features with the right. I definitely with the right button, because I showed this with the intro class. Your right settings dictates how many cards you have. The creativity slider here has to do with how close it needs to stay to the prompt. So if you want something really off the wall, we're going to go most. And that means like I'm putting my cursor right here. It's only going to read up this one paragraph. And if I click the right button, it can decide anything it wants, and it's not going to take into consideration everything that's further down. That's a very important thing about the right part. Criminals beware. Metronome's got the finest steel in the country and the smartest cops. So the second card, I just want to see. Smartest cops in the world. The detectives smiled at the sight of the immense city. It was a futuristic Tower of Babel. Whoa. A high-tech monolith that seemed to reach past the clouds and far into the sky. Up here, it was a sign of trust of sorts that the chief had called him in. Anderson had long. So this is where it went a little bit more creative. It started to create more backstory, that maybe the chief was involved, that the battery Now it's describing the battery in Rob's chest fizzed and popped, frying his circuits. He fell to the ground dead. Well, that was unexpected. We need Rob to not die as soon as he gets off the plane. That doesn't work. So this is where I said, hey, Sudowrite, you can do whatever. So let's see what it produces when I bring that creativity slider down. So I'm going to go to the right settings. I'm going to bring it back down. And now I'm going to click the right button. And let's see what kind of material we get. Yeah, death off. Bye-bye, Rob. I hate it when Sudowrite kills off the main character. Check your creativity settings. If your creativity settings are high, chances are it thought that it could kill off the main character. Okay, so now we have a little bit more information here. By bringing down that creativity, it really dug deep into what source material it had, which was just this information here. And now it's inventing 2026 and Metronome was just a small town in the state of Massachusetts, nestled among the forests. I would say forest there, not forest. We got a whole backstory here that might not necessarily go there. So now it's sticking closer to what information it already had. The crime scene was horrendous. Here's another thing that, another sign that it's not reading down. It thinks now that the murder victim's a legendary inventor. So somebody in the chat said, put in your prompt, don't kill the main character. Actually, you want to put those in your key details. How many of you played with key details? Anyone? Okay, so the key details only works for the right, and I think it only works for, yeah, it only works for the auto magic for right. And what you do is you put that in the settings right here. So I'm going to put my creativity back in the middle there. So that's a good, so make sure you suggest that in the feature list, because that would be good for the feature. So key details, we need to put in here, Detective Anderson. I'm going to say is under investigation for mishandling evidence. So he has to solve this case. Rob and Detective Anderson are main characters. Do not kill them. And you can put more information in here. It can only do about 400 characters. So what you want to kind of do, and this is something that I've been experimenting with, remember I have my scraps page. I also have a key details page. And so as I'm building, because I'm a plotter, but you could also do this if you pants. As you're building out chapters and things like that, I have key details for that chapter. I throw them in the key details box before I'm starting to use the write function off of my whatever chunk I've made, either dictating or with first draft. So I'm going to put those things in there. What's another key detail we want in here? Because I want to show that it'll pick up that key detail. Do we want to have that? How about Detective Anderson gets nauseous after he flies? Sound good? Okay. Dr. Anderson, or Dr. Anderson. Oh my gosh, we've changed the Detective Anderson suffers from motion sickness. Oh, this thing just got hilarious. The victim is an android. I agree it should be a key detail, but not for this one little part yet because we haven't gotten to the crime scene yet. Does that make sense, DC Horror? So it's really important when you put your key details in here that they only apply to the part that you're working in. If you start putting in key details for later on in the story, the AI tries to incorporate that into your scene. And that's a good source of getting frustrated. Ask me how I know. Yep, somebody saying that's good to know. Yeah. So we want suffers from morning sickness. Oh my goodness. Now we've just moved into MPreg. So Detective Anderson suffers from motion sickness. Bill, robots do die. Rust, robots. Okay. So we're going to click here and I'm going to click write those key details again. And now it should incorporate some of these details that I put in. And let's see what it'll do. Oh, right here. Now, see how I put those key details in? Rob immediately said, sensed his unease and asked if he was feeling all right to the motion sickness return. So how many of you have struggled to get the AI to put the details in that you want? Just throw them into key details, especially when you're using the write function. And it is hard. I want to express this. These are new writing skills. These are things that we aren't used to doing. We're used to being a team of one, and we just keep all of these things up in our head. But by throwing the key details in there, we're giving the junior writing partner Sudowrite a chance to work with us.
And the key, just to again clarify, the key details are for the card total, not the document. So if you forget, if you're doing chapters, you could have the wrong key details because it's for the entire card, and it's going to apply those key details to every document in the card. Is that correct?
No,
so if you want new key details, you have to go.
It'll apply to this document, and only when I click that auto magic button. It doesn't apply any other time.
If you create a new document inside this card, it can have new key details for that document.
So I just went to beat outline. My key details are still there, so I'd have to change them for this document. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. You said card. This is where it gets tricky. Yes, the key details are for the whole project. Does that
project?
That's what we were trying. I think we were trying to both say. Does that make sense?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the key details are for the same project. So you need to make sure that you don't have the wrong key details in there if you're working with like chapter 2 and you forgot to put your key details in there for chapter 2, because when you click the right button, it might go haywire for you.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
How long is that filled, or the character filled in there? Do you know?
It says it can handle 400 characters, and I think that that's something that they're looking at. So if I'm going to copy this because I'm going to take it out. Okay, now there's no limit there. Let me go back into it because it usually says what limit is there. It does. Now there's no limit there. Okay, so I don't know what the max is there. That is something that we are going to push the limits on. I will add it to the list because parentheses and weight, and we want to know the limits. And I'm happy to experiment that and come back. And if other people want to experiment with it too, we can put together experiments. So we want limits of the first draft
I might play with that.
and limits of key details. That's a good idea. Okay, so yes, key details are for the whole document, but guided. I don't believe it works with guided, and we tested that in the intro class, and they said that it doesn't read it for guided. It only reads it for the auto magic, which used to be wormhole. Okay, so back to our first chapter here, where we were generating. So everybody's comfortable with the write function now, about how people, I think, have more clarity now about how key details work and what you want to use that write function for. If you ever wonder if it was able to read all the way up, it reads about 1,000 words, but you can always see that. So for example, if I came down to the bottom of my document and put it right here and said write, and clicked write, when I clicked the write button, if you're ever curious, like how much did it actually take into consideration, you can always expand that card and it will show you how far up it went. And that can sometimes show you if there was a key detail like just out of reach, but you wanted it there. Now you know you need to throw that into the key details in order to keep going with your write function. And I think that'll help pantsers. So if you're a pantser and you come up with something maybe at the 700 word mark in the chapter, but now you're at 2,000 words, it's not going to be able to reach 700 words up. So you're going to need to grab that key detail and bring it into key details so that it'll still include it at the 2,000 word mark.
Hey,
okay,
Elizabeth,
good. And Harper's saying now she understands. Go ahead.
What is the basic difference between auto write and guided write?
Okay, that's a good question. So auto write, it gets to do what it wants. Guided write, we are the boss. So let's be the boss for a little bit. Okay, so here we had, I want to put something in here, and let's go back. Remember how I put in first draft, I said I wanted him to interact with the setting and run into some AI. Let's go ahead and tell it needs to do that. So you put your cursor where you want. I need to first I need to go ahead and change it to guided because I want guided next. I'll put the cursor where I want it to be, and then I just click this guided button. And you can turn on suggestions. So suggestions are where Sudowrite can actually make suggestions. It can tell you what it thinks should come next. So let's see what it thinks should happen. They meet with witnesses. They visit the victim's family. They uncover evidence. I find that a lot of times early on in a story, Sudowrite's suggestions here, it doesn't know how long my project is. So it kind of suggests things that would happen later on in the story. Does that make sense? It's not in that very visceral moment of moment by moment inside of the scene, especially early on in a book or early on in a chapter. So let me go ahead and write our own. So let's say we want Detective Anderson lands and interacts with an AI coffee cart and wonders, where are all the humans? Sound good? Does that sound like a good suggestion? Yeah. Now, your suggestions here could be beats from your outline. Let's say you don't use Sudowrite to help you with your outline, or you do, and you have a whole separate outline thing. You could actually put that in there. Someone would say it would be useful to be able to indicate how far through the writing project we are. That's a good idea, Kevin. You could suggest it as a feature or something like that. Okay, someone said they didn't realize. Do suggestions eat words? Yes, they do, but you don't have to have suggestions on. So the words that it ate, it won't eat any words until I click it won't eat more words than what's visible here. And I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it'll probably eat about 30 to 50 words if you tell it to give you suggestions. And then once I click those, they'll also eat words in the quota.
Elizabeth, yep. with your prompt for guided writing, what's your best takes like to get the best response out of it? Do you want to keep them short and sweet, or can you add more in? Like,
it depends on how I feel about the project. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, my heart's not really into Detective Anderson and Roth because I write Jane Austen fan fiction. When I write Jane Austen fan fiction, I will put stuff in here and I will say like, Mr. Darcy scowls because he's upset. Like I'll put emotional arcs in there. And then sometimes you can tell guided write, show not tell, and that'll work. But other times I'll just do the rewrite. So I kind of play with both tools. I find more detail in guided write helps. The mindset here, right now, guided write will produce about whatever your cards are. So my cards are set at 250 words. So I try to think that I give it enough meat, enough material to fill 250 words. Does that make sense? Because if you give it less,
that makes sense. If
you give it less material, it's only going to produce you about 100 words. So let's test that out. I'm just going to have he lands and he interacts with a coffee cart. I'm not going to put and he wonders where all the humans are. We're going to add that in. So let me copy and paste this into the chat so I have it. And we're just going to do the coffee cart because that was not a lot of information. And
so I do find that in guided write, like what you were saying, to put in like the emotional content works really well. But if I add too many details as far as for the scene, if I have multiple actions listed, then that's where it might summarize things instead of show it. So I like the idea of putting the descriptions in there of the action versus, telling it too many things that are going to happen in the scene at once.
Yes, and then sometimes when it's summarized, then I'm using my expand tool to like go in and expand those pieces that it's summarized out, or rewrite, show, don't tell, those kinds of things.
Nice.
Yeah. So here, for example, we just gave it that one little bit, and I'm going to highlight my card. And I have a feeling a feature coming soon is like when you highlight the card, it'll show you how many words. The words up here, though, do not match what's on the card. They match what's in the document. So if I highlight this and right click and we go word count plus, I've got 292 words. So that was pretty good. 300 words is pretty decent. And it definitely picked up that just from the prompt that he's landing in the airport, that we want more setting details. And sometimes I've noticed that the AI is really good at that. There's 263 words. So if I put this in here, detective, and then he wonders where are all the humans, I'm going to actually change that prompt a little bit. I'm going to go to guided. Oh, I'm sorry. These cards, I didn't give you guys enough chance. It just basically describes them going up to the coffee cart and stuff happens. It's surrounded by human robotics, chatting, laughing. Marvel of technology. So it kind of saves you on having to do the describe picture. It already does it. Stared in awe for a few moments before he finally stepped up to the counter. So you could absolutely start expanding out your scene very quickly by using guided write, I think. The fastest I've ever done guided write, I think I've gotten about 2,000 words in about 10, 15 minutes because I already knew what was going to happen in the scene. It was like bam, 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 bam. Okay, can you limit the number of words in the prompt? What do you mean? Peter, do you want me to do a shorter prompt? I'll wait for you to get back on that in the guided prompt. You want to limit the response. Right? Okay, yeah. So prompt is what we give it, response is what's on the cards. So I would do that in my write settings because guided write is under the write heading. Does that make sense? So write for the write settings, the write settings controls auto, guided, and tone shift. So when I click guided, so in my write settings, if I don't want 250 cards, I will do 100 words. Let's say I do 100 words, and we'll put that same I have no key details right now. We'll do the exact same prompt that we did before. And I'm just going to click go. So you can see how it'll give me less words on those cards. One question from the intro is, how do you know if it's still going? When it pauses mid-word like that, I know that it's still going. Do you see how these cards are giving a lot fewer words, Peter? Yeah. So now if I highlight that, I have 102. So that's how you control how many words you want in guided write. So if you know guided write should just be one little thing that you need, you can have it just at 50 words or 100 words. I'm greedy and I like 250 words because I'm an underwriter by trade. How many of you have heard the phrase of like, are you an underwriter or an overwriter? How many of you identify as an overwriter who overwrites? And when you edit, you have to do a lot of cuts. Yeah. I'm an underwriter. When I edit, I have to do a lot of expansions. I have to put more stuff in. Yeah. So us underwriters are like, please give us 250 words. And everyone who's an overwriter is like 50. All I need is 50. Okay,
Elizabeth,
Liz,
the number of words that you select for each card, does it affect the quality of the writing that's going to give you back? Like, is it more concise if you have fewer, or is it like just trying to give you a lot of purple prose if you ask for more, or does it really give you better quality, or have you noticed a difference?
Okay, so that's a nuanced question there. So what I find is it has to do with the prompt itself. So if my prompt is not enough to cover 250 words, I get purple prose. Notice when I wanted 250 words and we just said this, I got the AI cart was a marvel of technology. It's sleek. Like I got a lot of purple prose. I got like description upon description of the description with all the lights. If I give it, I just want 100 words and it's the same prompt, I think that this is more succinct. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I wanted to make sure that. So it still gave some details, but I don't have, it's got an eye-catching neon sign, but then we don't get the neon sign was a marvel of technology and we don't have those extra details. Okay, there was another question in here. Do you think Tone Shift will ever have the same ability to add stuff like guided write? That could be a good feature request. Yeah, so DC Horror says that I got my settings to 50 words and some of the prompts I gives me more details, but then cuts out mid-sentence. So that actually happened to us right here. Its front panel was, and that's a good indication that you might need to either, if you want more, you run it again. But here's where it goes back to. Sometimes that can get you into that trap of making the AI write all the words. So if you got what you needed on the cards there and you could just riff off of it and keep going. I think sometimes we fall into the traps of like, we're going to run this prompt 3, 4, 5 times trying to get the AI to write the magic words. And if you know the magic words that you're looking for, sometimes it's faster just to add to it. If everybody doesn't fall into that trap, I understand, but that's a trap that I fall into all the time. I keep wanting to push the AI further. So one of the questions was about tone shift. So let's play about tone shift. Tone shift is, it will control, I think of tone shift as almost like a filter on the autocomplete. It doesn't understand key details yet, but that's something that they could probably do if we ask for that feature. Tone shift, if whatever it writes next is going to fit one of these presets. It doesn't at the moment have the ability to put that in. That is a good feature request, I think, Liz, if you add it there, because basically a lot of us have been doing I've been doing tone shifts with rewrite commands, and I know that they've been expanding with bigger key rewrites. So then somebody's saying that I set 250 words and put the prompt, he checks the time, 50 words only, and it worked. Okay, so Peter is saying that if he puts in parentheses and guided write, what it's allowed to do, that it only wants it in 50 words, it'll listen to that. That's cool. That's good to know. So let's say we want, I think the biggest one that's going to be the most dramatically different is romantic. What do you guys think? Like we're going to be able to see that it's changed the tone to romantic. So we'll click romantic and we'll click like we want to keep going. And I'm just going to click the right button and we'll get those 2 cards. Actually, I think I have to run that again because I cut it down to 100 words. I forgot I changed my settings. Yeah. Let's do 250 words and run it again. So now we want romantic. I want the Jeopardy music or something. Okay. Welcome to Metronome, it boomed. So we have a guardian. We have a hulking figure standing in the shadows. Anderson nodded, taking in the sights of the city around him. It was then that he noticed something out of the corner, a woman standing nearby, her eyes twinkling under the streetlights. This is something I have noticed with the romantic. This is one of the biases. It always assumes a male-female coupling. So that is something that you may need to change depending on what genres you're writing, or what your characters are doing. If you have non-binary or you have LGBTQ pairings, the romantic tone shift almost always does male-female. So that's a limitation it has. So yeah, but immediately I said romance, and it decided we needed to introduce Isabella. I will be honest, I don't really use tone shift very often. Does anyone else use tone shift much? No. I think it could be helpful for like thrillers. So let's say I want it to be fast paced.
Actually, I do use the tone, and I notice that whenever I use tone, it usually gives me fewer words, but it is true to that tone.
Okay, very cool.
I like it for a specific scene. If I want to increase the angst or maybe the tension, I can hit it and tell it to write something. And then pseudo, I guess, because it's reading up from that area, it captures it whenever I go to hit write next time.
Very cool. Okay, so that's something, and I would put that feedback in there. That might be something that's something that I think the developers need to know, that Sudowrite continually tries to change the partnerships. So that might be a feature that we need to be able to define the partnerships, or you define the partnerships in the key details. Have you guys been defining the partnerships in the key details when you've been using the write function?
I have not used the key yet, but I will definitely do that sometime today.
Gotcha. Okay, so here we did a fast paced, and honestly, I think that this is actually pretty good. I mean, it's very like, we get a lot more dialogue. It's a lot more it's a lot snappy. So tone shift could be an option to play with for when you're generating information. And this is how quickly it grows. If I just put this in there, I'm not really reading it, but if I did just put it in there, now all of a sudden I've got 744 words to play with. And I don't know about you, but on a bad writing day, the robot helps me, Sudowrite helps me all the time with my bad writing days of like, before Sudowrite, I might have gotten 200 words or 500 words. And with Sudowrite, I can actually get a full scene. Does anybody experience that when they're working with Sudowrite? And it really helps. Okay, so we have about 20 minutes left in the class, and I want to make sure I answer any other questions. Is there anything I haven't gone over that somebody really wants to go over?
I'd love to see for trilogies, like the next book in the series, like how you would navigate that.
Okay, that is Sudowrite. How did it get its name? So Sudowrite comes from a writers group called Sudowriters, and for those of you who use Linux, like I do, or Unix, sudo is actually a command called superdo. It allows you to go in, so you do sudo bash, and it means that you're taking over control of the over the computer. So Sudowrite is literally meaning take control over the writing with a computer. That's where the name comes from. But it was a writers group that James and Amit were in called Sudowriters. Okay, where can I read more about how to use prompts? I think we're working on creating materials for that. I'm sorry if it seems like I ignored the trilogy thing. No, I'm going to show that, but that's a very advanced, like I haven't perfected that yet, but I've got some toys to show you, some prompts that I'll show you in first draft. So how to use the prompts, good question. How about a different tone than the ones listed? We don't have that ability yet. You'd have to use rewrite for that, or you'd have to put it as a command inside first draft, or you could put it in your key details. If you're using write, you can say write everything in the tone of blah, 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 comedic or something. Be interested in how you would tweak the prompt for a derivative novel. I watched your video from 20 to 50K this morning, and I was thinking about a novel based on The Great Gatsby. I wouldn't tweak the prompt at all. So the cool thing about working with derivative fiction, if you're working with public domain, the AI knows the characters. Like if I was to create an entirely new document, and by the way, one document inside of a project doesn't talk to the other documents yet. I say yet because I have a feeling that that's coming. Yeah, that's really a bug that's coming up. I'll have to put that in there. We'll put Jaff here. So as soon as I say Mr. Darcy, I can say, I'll take that out, back it up, come back. I want my first draft box back. There we go. You have to just backspace to get it. If I go to my first draft and I say Mr. Darcy is sitting at home or at his estate and calls to his wife to see if she received a letter from the Duke. Notice I don't name who his wife is or anything like that. I just say this. So I'm going to just go. It should pick up the details already from Pride and Prejudice. So if you use Great Gatsby, it should pick it up. There you go. They know that he's married to Elizabeth and not Jane. And sometimes, you know, this can be a good way to get started for the day. If you just have like one little bit and then you start going with first draft and it gives a couple of hundred, the outline doc you're using via Slack. I will definitely put the prompts into Slack. I'll make sure to put those into a document. And I think that we're going to move forward as a group and as a team to create more documentation for each other that we have prompts in there. And I know that, you know, Sudowrite is hiring for the community manager and everything like that. So I do know that the future plans is to have someone in a role that is providing, you know, education and materials and things. So that is something that they're working on. So there we go, 612 words. And all I did was give it one sentence. So I always feel really jazzed when that happens. Like, here's a prompt and go. Oh, great. I'm happy for that. All right. I'm going to flex my fingers here. Trilogies, right? We want series. Okay. So this is some really fun avant-garde stuff. Give me 1 second and I'm going to pull some material from something else. I'm going to stop the share just really fast. Give everyone a breather. And let me go get the prompt because I have it in a different document. Okay. You can talk amongst yourselves real fast if you don't mind, because this was like a big ask for the trilogy. It's going to take me a second to get set up to show how to do that. Okay, where is it? The using right. Working with summaries, I'm going to be honest with this about a series. AI is limited, but you can get like the basics of it. So here's what we're going to do. I like to do it from the perspective of the summary. So we're going to go back to that prompt that we had. Let me cancel the share really fast and go back to the Sudowrite. And this is where like the limitations are endless. So I'm going to share the screen. We're going to go back to our summaries prompt that we had. The prompt that we had that was 3 summaries. Okay. So I'm going to tweak this in order for it to become for a series. So let me do that at the bottom here. And I think I've shared this already in the Slack like months ago, so it's probably already been eaten. So we want to write summaries for a 3-book series. Okay. So write me 3 novel series, 3 different novel summaries for a science. We won't work in science fiction. Let's work with another genre, just so that everybody else gets a chance here.
Romance is good.
Yeah, I was going to do romance because that's where we most often write romance. So let's do 3 different novel summaries for a. Do we want to do sweet romance? Do we want to do, what romance do we want? Kathy, you spoke up. So what
Why choose?
Huh? Why choose? Okay, yeah, I'm here for it. Now, I will say that the AI sometimes doesn't understand reverse harem, so you have to define it. So we're going to call it though that so that it knows. For a reverse harem romance novel series. Okay, so see how we're saying series involving, and now we have to explain this. Involving 1 woman and 3 men with specific backstories, names for the leads. Are we doing academy or what setting do we want to put them in?
Academy's great.
Academy's great. Okay. At a private school or misbehaving youth. For wealthy misbehaving youth.
I say 1 woman, 3 men, and a robot.
Oh, oh boy. You can write sex and violence with Sudowrite because it's in the context of a novel, but since we are recording this, we're going to try to keep this pretty PG-13, okay?
Okay,
For
fine.
today. So at a private school for wealthy misbehaving youth, where the female lead, now I'm already changing, I'm saying female lead. I catch myself doing this. So if I say one woman, I'm going to put one female lead and 3 male leads. You want to be consistent in your language here. At a private school for wealthy misbehaving youth, where the female lead is wooed by all 3 male leads, and she eventually ends up in a consensual relationship with all of them. Add in obstacles and challenges for them to all fall in love, with a theme of, do we want revenge or bullying, or what do we want?
Enemies to lovers.
Okay, with a theme of enemies to lovers. The school should have a robot janitor. Just, there we go. We couldn't leave the robots behind. Okay. So here we go. Now, write me 3 different novel summaries for a reverse harem romance novel series involving 1 female lead and 3 male leads. Each novel summary in the series should build on the overall story of the entire series. Now, I'm doing this off the fly. I would actually need to go back and look at, I have really extensive notes, but it's not always easy for me to just grab them. Consensual. I don't think that's the right, how do you spell that, right? Consent?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Like there's a T. There's no T. So each novel summary in the series should build on the overall. I'm going to put this up higher in the prompt because I think that it might get confused. Write me 3 different novel summaries for a reverse harem romance novel series where each novel summary in the series should build on the overall story of the entire series involving blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's see how that works. Help me, Sudowrite. You're my only hope. So we're going to go add new, generate a first draft, pop that puppy in, and click go. Now, if it doesn't give me what I want, what do I tweak? The prompt. So I would go back and I would start playing with it. But I've done this successfully where it'll start to figure it out. So we have Scarlett Davis, who I already like the name.
Elizabeth, can you copy and paste the prompt into the chat, please?
I can.
Thank you.
Hey, Elizabeth, I just
Yes.
tried it going off of a premise that I had for book 1, and I asked it to write me a premise for book or a summary for book 2 and book 3. And I referenced book 1's premise, and it actually spit them out for me.
Yes, you can. There's multiple
So that
ways
was cool
to make this do what this happens. So we've got Winston Academy. I'm not sure that it fully understood. I think it's like having her meet 3 different men each time. So we're going to have to see how, I may have to tweak my prompt a little bit. Scarlett Davis, a teenager from an average background, arrives at the prestigious Winston Academy. She meets 3 mysterious male characters, find her place in the private school, enemies plotting against them, the threat of an old scandal looming throughout the series, woven by Scarlet threads. Scarlet must work to overcome the odds and a happy ending for herself and her newfound loves. And Woven by Scarlet Threads, Scarlet. So we have Woven at the elite Winston Academy, private school for misbehaving youth. At the gates, she's met by the robot janitor. Mysteries of the school. So it doesn't understand that it's the same once. So we need to tweak the prompt. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do add new. And we'll play with it down here in the prompt before we do that. So let me see here. I wish I had my notes for this. Okay, write me three novel summaries. We'll take that out. 3 novel series for a reverse harem romance novel series where each novel should build on the overall story of the entire series. Actually, I'm just going to take that out and see what it can do.
Maybe put like in book 1, they hate each other.
Well, they should get together still, right? In book 1, they hate each other, but fall in love.
By the end of book 1.
Their love is challenged. And in book 3, the ending is they all find a way to be together after school is over. Sound good? Does that work for a series? Okay, let's see if that works better. And I'm going to put this in the chat. I use the word prompt. Do you mean blank screen? Prompt is anything I feed into the AI. So anything I write and then I click go, the words that I wrote is the prompt. So here's a blank screen. That's the blank screen. The words that I actually put in there, that's the prompt. Does that help with the definition for you, Sass? Okay, yeah, good. Okay, so this is the prompt. So we'll click go. I'm laughing about the robot janitor. All right, chapter 1. Oh, it's writing the chapter. Fail whale out. Nope. I can tell you right now, that's not going to work. We'll try it again. All right, let's see here. Write me three novel summaries for a reverse harem romance novel series. I'm going to take reverse harem out because I don't think it knows what that is. So it's just a romance novel series. Oh, this is where I had an extra where in there, involving one female lead and 3 male leads with specific backstories, names for the leads at a private school for wealthy misbehaving youth, where the female lead is wooed by all 3 male leads and she eventually ends up in a consensual relationship with all 3 of them. Add in obstacles and challenges for them to all fall in love with a theme of enemies to lovers. The school should have a robot janitor. In book 1, they hate each other, but fall in love by the end of book 1. And in book 2, their love is challenged. And in book 3, okay, so there we go. So this is the new prompt. So having some of those extra words in there confused the AI. And they were like, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to write you a chapter. That's pretty much what it defaults to. Yes.
You might try saying 3 episodic novel summaries.
Oh, that's a good one. We could put that in. One night with Sudowrite, we got a whole 13 episodes. We did 13 episodes for a pilot series or something, like we were building out a series. I think it got it. I think it nailed it. Right here, we've got Gabriella, an innocent woman. Oh, we'd have to change that. Attends a prestigious private school for wealthy misbehaviors. She meets Chase, an enigmatic figure. Meanwhile, Austin and John have taken an interest in Gabriella and make their presence known to her. Despite the underlying hatred from their past, Gabriella and Chase can no longer deny their intense attractions for each other. The school's robot janitor as their only witness, they must face their fears and find a way to make their forbidden love work. There you go. That's book 1. Book 2, Gabriella is caught in a romantic entanglement with all 3 of the male leads, Chase, Austin, and John. With their past still standing in the way, the school's robot janitor watching their every move, the 4 of them must come to terms with their feelings and fight their way through the obstacles posed by their enemies. So we would want to define that more. So you could this is where you could work with a summary, and you could say rewrite, customize, rewrite to include more specific details and characters for the novel summary. And go. The robot janitor just likes to watch. Yeah. Look, I threw that. Honestly, you would not put that detail in there. Truthfully, I'll take it out and we'll get something more serious. So this is where we have a rewrite. And oh, now the robot janitor is chasing them down. So it's trying to catch them in the act, I guess. Will it be snuffed out by the secrets? Join Gabriella. So one of the things that you could do with brainstorm is you could brainstorm secrets that, you know, young lovers could have at a junior college or something. So that's usually, I think, where academy is kind of set, or maybe is it high school level or junior college? Kind of ambiguous. Oh, it's 2 strikes to people breaking the rules. 3 strikes. Yeah, no more than 3 kisses. You're out. So this is where you could play with it. Let's play with the prompt one more time. We're going to take out the robot janitor and we're going to add episodic, because that is a keyword that I know that the AI understands. So I'm going to come in here to generate first draft, paste it in there. We're going to take out the robot janitor. Usually it's the principal who would be the problem, I think. Write me 3 episodic novel summaries. Let's see how it goes. And I'll grab this prompt too and I'll put it in the chat. I just have to do it after it's already run. Okay, now we have Beatrice. Oh, we have Mark and Jacob and Henry. Oh, and it's a brooding, tortured artist, successful heir to a fortune, and free-spirited rebel. That's more on par with the tropes, right, Kathy? Yeah.
Yes.
All right, her 3 suitors. Oh, they're struggling against a rival, a disapproving headmaster, and growing dangers of their own past. So this is where you could start building it out. They've grown closer, but the outside world is determined to keep them apart as they all face trials. And so this is where you would play with it and you would expand. I would do like a full, I would have fun and I would create entire backstories for these characters because it's given me enough information. Okay, Mark, the brooding, tortured artist. So now I would kind of imagine, okay, I'm the senior writer on this project. Maybe Mark has some project that he's been working on and it's all crumbling and it's falling apart. Like there's some threat, there's some existential threat to his art project or something. And so that's a big challenge in book 2. Maybe Jacob, the heir to a fortune, maybe his father threatens to cut him off from his trust fund if he doesn't have a traditional relationship. Are these tropes that would ever happen in reverse harem or no?
I just read one just like that last night.
I don't read the genre, but I like the idea of why choose? Like, this is great.
My whole life, I've hated love triangles. I'm like, why can't she have them both? So.
Henry, the free-spirited rebel. Maybe in book 3, the challenge is that Henry gets expelled because he's the rebel of the school. And so I wouldn't even have these ideas though if the Sudowrite didn't define these characters for me and let me riff off of it and everything like that. So let me get this prompt for you guys. And I think that that's a good note to end on because we've done a lot of work today. My brain hurts. Anyone else's brain hurts? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the share. I want to thank all of you for coming today. It has been a joy to work with you all. I'm really excited about our Sudowrite community that we have on the Slack. Everyone's a member of the Slack, so I don't have to tell you to do that because you wouldn't be here if you didn't already know the Slack. I will make sure that we get some of these materials to you all, and especially because it's all saved in my Sudowrite, so don't worry, I'll get some of that information there. I don't know when we're going to get the recording. It's been a busy week and everything, so we're going to, I know it will come soon, but I don't have a firm date on that yet. Okay, so people were lost. Great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. You will get an exit survey. Please be specific on the exit survey because we want to make better content and everything like that. And yeah, here's the Sudowrite, right? Like saving our lives. Like I love this software. Anyone else love it so much?